20 plus years ago, I stood in front of the ovens at Auschwitz-Birkenau as part of the March of the Living trip that I took with teenagers from our community. Being in Auschwitz is unlike any other kind of experience. For me, it felt as if the entirety of Jewish history, from Abraham and Sarah to Egyptian slavery to the Inquisition to today, converged into one point in time where everything stood still, and the only thing that existed was that moment when our people, some of our own relatives, were taken to the gas chambers and the crematoria simply because they were Jews. I can't get it out of my head that had we been there, it would have been us. I think about the Holocaust a lot. As a teenager and a college student, I couldn't read enough survivor memoirs. I knew I had overdone it when their stories infiltrated both my dreams and my waking moments, so much so that I couldn't think of anything else and had to force myself to put them down. And while enjoy is the wrong word, I am still drawn to Holocaust literature. It touches my soul in a way that I can't explain, for it is both devastating and empowering at the same time, and connects me to our people and to our heritage. On any particular Michigan winter's day, I think about what it must have felt like to stand at roll call in just a thin shirt and wonder how anyone survived when I am chilled to the bone, but I'm dressed in a hat and a scarf and gloves and a down jacket. Or when I'm hungry and my stomach rumbles, I think about how they survived on this thin, watery soup with, if they were lucky, a carrot or a potato. And my thoughts jump from scenario to scenario, the back-breaking work, beatings, torture, and of course gas chambers and death marches and crematoria, and I am certain that I would never have survived. Now, the fact that I tend to do this could be a generational thing because I don't see it with my children or our students. We are currently studying the Holocaust in our 7th grade here at Temple Israel. We get 6 hours over the course of 6 weeks, which makes it impossible to convey the enormity of it all. I'm grateful to the Zeckelman Holocaust Center, which gives a tremendous overview. And then as we debrief our experience there, how it offers our students the opportunity to reflect and consider that this isn't ancient history, but soon will be. And I worry that they don't really understand. Monday was International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and it marked the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. That morning, I had read an article in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz about a survey commissioned by the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany, better known as the Claims Conference, that surveyed people across 8 European countries and the United States with shocking results, including the fact that most people believe that the number 6 million is exaggerated. 1 in 4 Europeans surveyed cannot name a ghetto or concentration camp, and that number is 1 in 2 in the United States. And a majority believe that it could happen again. Earlier this month, the ADL published a similar survey with 58,000 respondents across 102 countries and found that 46% of the world's adult population believe at least 6 out of the given 11 anti-Semitic stereotypes provided were true. 6 out of 11. 46% compared to 26% just 10 years ago. And we thought it was high then. Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the ADL, who was here back in the fall, responded to the data saying, "Anti-Semitism is nothing short of a global emergency, especially in a post-October 7th world." So we fast forward 80 years from liberation. I wake up every morning to read what has happened overnight in Israel. The ceasefire is holding. This week, already 12 hostages have been released and 3 more tomorrow, including Gadi Moses, whose family visited us in the early days of the war. And it is so emotional. My heart literally fills with relief and gratitude, while my eyes well up with tears as I watch those videos of the hostages reuniting with their families. And at the same time, My heart is breaking for all those who will never come home. Over the last 483 days, there have been a lot of comparisons between October 7th and the Holocaust. Perhaps because it was the largest attack against Jews since then, and shows a brutality and dehumanization of those days. Perhaps, even though antisemitism has been on the rise over these last years with terrorist attacks around the world, the hate has never been so tangible or as virulent or as pervasive since the Holocaust as it is now. Perhaps because it invokes worldwide Jewish trauma in a way that most of us have never experienced before except with the Holocaust, where we see our own communities protesting against us as Jews and against Israel. And maybe because we stood up and we shouted never again, and it feels like it is happening again. Over the last year, how many of you have wondered if your neighbors would hide you if it came to that? How many have asked yourselves, how do we know when it's time to leave, and where would we go? I don't know if it's comforting or not, but as Jews, we have been asking ourselves these same questions for centuries. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Bo. As it begins, we join in the middle of the 10 plagues, where Pharaoh has hardened his heart against the Israelites over and over again, refusing to let them go. It's obvious as the plagues become more and more intense that his hatred and stubbornness are more important than even his own people. As with the 10th plague, the killing of the firstborn, where a loud cry was heard throughout the land of Egypt as was never heard before. This is real hate. Hate that is cruel and evil and all-consuming. There's no room for mercy with this kind of hate. There's no way to see humanity in the other. Though interestingly, after each plague, Pharaoh seems to retreat ever so slightly. But in the end, he is Pharaoh, and he will not let the people go. In another sermon in this Torah portion, I once quoted the psychotherapist Erich Fromm, who wrote, "The more a person's heart hardens, the less freedom there is for change. There comes a point of no return when a person's heart has become so hardened that the possibility of freedom is lost. There is no surrender." It was true for Pharaoh. It was true for Hitler. For at the end of World War II, even though it was evident that Germany was going to lose the war, rather than concede, they revved up their killing machine. And it is true for Hamas. Despite the ceasefire with the release of hostages and prisoner exchange, it is not about mercy. It is only about victory. But for us, as Israelites, we crossed the sea to freedom, and we made it to Sinai, and we made it to the Promised Land. And since that day, we look for moments of hope that overcome fear. We look for sparks of light in a darkened room that in this song that our own Emma Trevex wrote, make the world aglow. Today, our sparks are Emily, Romy, Daron, Karina, Daniela, Nama, Leary, Agam, Arbel, Gadi, Wachara, Ponskak, Sathian, Sarasak, and Siatho. Because of you, we soften our hearts as we work together to transform hate into love, to turn evil into good. You are our inspiration, our strength, our hope, to create a world that is free of hate and where we will all be able to live together in peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will, as together we say.